Yes, right here with the napkin on the back of his chair. Oh, should I go in with his napkin or people? Anyway, he's very nice. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Keep eating, keep enjoying. I'm Laura DuBois, Board President of ADO and the President and Executive Director of the Picture House. It's my delight to welcome you all here today. As everybody keeps saying, it's just every time, it's so good to be together in a room, right? And speaking of being together in a room, there are ADO board members in the audience who are the most fabulous people in the world. Would you all just raise your hand? These are the folks that you should reach out to learn more about ADO. They're a fantastic team, and I also want to point out to you Kevin Cook, who's out there in the back, and Monica Spears, who are the co-chairs of our Philanthropy Awards breakfast. As always, today is made possible only through the generosity of our sponsors, some of whom are here with us as well. Sea Clean Commercial Cleaning, Joseph Pisamenti is here. Corporate AV, right next to him is Marissa Madonia. Jill Singer Graphics, Jill is in the room. Where is she? Yay! NFP, I don't believe we have anyone here, but we're grateful nonetheless. Orange Bank and Trust, please welcome Michael. United Way of Westchester and Putnam, and Con Edison, who provide year-round support for all of our events, for which we are eternally grateful. I also, we never do this because she writes the words. Hillary Millman, our fabulous executive director. If today is your first ever ADO event, I'm going to ask you to stand up and super briefly, seriously, there are a lot of us here, give us your name, your position, and your organization. We want to learn all about your stories, but we'll just do that for starters. So we'll start with this table right here. Anybody? First meeting? Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else at this table? Wendy's table.
It's not my first meeting, as most of you know. I'm Natasha Weinstein. I'm sitting at Los Pizza looking for a development role. If you know of anything, let me know.
Great. Any new folks here in the back? Thank you. Okay, we done over here? I'm coming to the front table here.
I'm Jamie Stone. I'm a Senior Development Associate with Student Advocacy. We have legally based educational advocacy for children, underserved children in the higher Westchester metro area.
Great. Hello. All right, I have to pick on my favorite next. Guess why? Ooh. I think you can see from this alone, not to mention all the other folks in the room, what a great organization ADO is. There are about 25 of you in the room who are not members. I encourage you to join. I encourage you to talk to your neighbors about the benefits of being part of this group. Speaking for myself, I joined as a new executive director who was also chief development officer, and I wouldn't have made it to today without this group. So I can't encourage you enough. And if you join by the end of the month, you can apply the $40 you paid today for the lunch to your annual membership. ADO also has an active job board, so please seek that out, check that out for opportunities coming your way and for any opportunities you want to shout out to the world. And now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the fabulous Nikki Hahn, Executive Director of the Women's Enterprise Development Center, WEDC, who will moderate our panel. So thank you, enjoy.
Thank you. All right, where are our panelists? Come on up, ladies.
I like this.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to meet you in person, too. Good. All right, thank you, everyone, for being here today. We've all met, Rose, I know you personally, we've met several times, but the rest of us met over Zoom, so it's nice to see you all in person, put a face with a name. And thank you all for being here today. This is a very packed room. We've had really great ADO workshop turnout recently, and I'm thrilled to see all of you here today, so thank you for joining us. So we're all here to talk about engaging event donors as ambassadors, volunteers, and board members and beyond, right? So we're back in person now. Many of us are having in-person galas. We've moved away from full virtual events. And so we're going to talk with these wonderful people today about how to do just that. So I'll give a quick introduction and then let each of you speak to the topic, and then we'll jump right into questions. So first we have Rose Cappa-Rotunno, and she's the Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Wartburg and also the President of the Event Department, New York. And then to Rose's left, we have Katherine Gasparich, and she, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Oh, apologies. My nameplates may have moved. Sorry about that. We'll jump back around. Katherine Gasparich, she's the event coordinator with Events to Remember, and she mentioned earlier she works with Charisse, who many of us know. We have Ann Hyatt, Director of Development of the Guidance Center of Westchester, an affiliate of Access Supports for Living. And Fran Higgins, Assistant Executive Director and Director of Development for the Arc Westchester Foundation. So thank you all for being here today. These are local experts in this field, and we're so excited to hear from all of you. The goal of today is for all of you to walk away with tangible, actionable items that you can implement very soon in your organization. So that will set the stage there. Rose, do you want to just talk a little bit about your experience as it relates to this topic? We can go down the row and then we'll jump into questions.
Sure. One of the hats that I've worn has been a consultant for events and in Westchester for about 20 years. And one thing I think that we should all keep in mind as we move forward is that every single organization and every single event is very unique. You can't make it cookie cutter. So what you learn today, you might want to adjust and mold to fit your needs because everything isn't going to work for everybody. But there are some basic best practices that I hope you can come away with today.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Ann Hyatt here. I've been doing fundraising for many, many years, and every job I've ever had has involved some sort of an event. So they are a huge time suck, and there's lots of tricks that you can use after your event to keep the fundraising going. We'll be talking about some of those today.
Hi, I'm Katherine Gasparich. I've been in fundraising, development, and event planning for 25 years. I was in San Francisco for 14 years, Manhattan, and now Westchester. I have helped with development, creating boards, creating the program, speech writing. And one thing I've found that everybody who works in the nonprofit sector, we've all done the jobs. So we have such a wealth of knowledge, and I'm honored to be here among all of you.
Thank you. Great. Fran?
Hi, I'm Fran Higgins. Honored to be here, and thank you for asking me. I started working on events in Boston at the Advertising Club for events that were for about 1,000 people, and moved on to the Public Relations Society in Manhattan, and now at the Arc Westchester Foundation for a variety of events of all different sizes. And I agree that it is best practices and, around the board, and there's lots of different sizes of events, but we could always tailor it to a group of 10 or a group of 1,000, so.
Great. Well, thank you. All right, let's jump right into our question. So who do you consider an event donor? Is it anyone who buys a ticket, someone who buys an auction item, paddle raisers? Who is an event donor?
I would say all of the above.
Yeah, and I would even expand it to anyone who donated to your auction, and also the volunteers, because their time is a donation.
Any other takers?
Yeah, no, I would say all of them as well, and I think auction is an interesting topic because in one way, auction buyers are at the bottom of my list in terms of paying closer attention to. However, the exact opposite is true if somebody's really bidding high on an auction item, because that sort of indicates that they have like a fun spirit and they're trying to do that. So I will pay attention to them, because that might be an avenue to reach out to them and say, hey, you want to come in and help us with the auction, and then you can continue to grow that and introduce them to different elements of your organization. I've always found that to be a real use. So it's like they're the opposite in one way, like the least important and less of the big bidders, because they're fun. Oh.
Fun equals more money.
Fun, I think it's they're more like the gambling and the risk taking and the passion for wanting to do this. It sort of indicates a certain personality trait.
And there's a little bit of competition between those people too. And so that gets things going too.
Please use your microphones.
Oh, are you having trouble hearing us?
Yes.
Okay. Keep giving us that feedback if you need more sound. Fran, anything you'd like to add to that?
Just that can you hear me? Just that even the smaller donors at an event, like somebody who just purchases a raffle ticket, or we have a wine pull at one of our events, we consider them donors also. So, and definitely I agree about the volunteers.
So that leads me to the next question. So what is your specific plan, or do you have a specific plan for following up with event donors and keeping them engaged after? So you have a big gala, and then what?
I'll start. I put together a list before the event of people that I want to go to during the event and cultivate later. Often somebody will take a table and they invite all your friends and they don't know anything about your charity and they almost don't care, and they're there for the person that invited them. So I work those people, get the names of those people, try to meet them at the event, and then I have a whole plan afterwards.
I would say I would take a step back from the event itself, because to me, the event is one step in the process. It's not the be-all and end-all of your fundraising or your campaign. Before the event, there should be some cultivation opportunities, whether it's pulling together your honorees and the sponsors in a pre-event event or occasion, or even just building up to that event. And so when you're looking at your event, it's really the smallest part of what you're doing, because it should be part of a real bigger holistic plan of how you're going to communicate with people in the future. So there's some things that are pretty basic, like thank yous afterwards and that sort of thing. But, when you're planning your event, you should also be thinking about what kind of fishing you can do at the event that could lead to other friendships outside of it.
Yeah, so, can you hear me? I think I was the one that you couldn't hear. Obviously, before the event, I love kickoff parties. I think that's a really great way to get your larger donors to bring friends in. But following up after the event, especially if you're pushing social media, I think it's important to pay attention to who posted on your social media or used your hashtag, and then publicly applaud them for supporting you and sort of draw them in that way. And then social media is such a huge thing now. I think following up afterwards on social media with pictures and thank yous and public announcements on your website, I think that's a really important element as well, to the traditional thank you letters or, special invitations to cocktail parties or something afterwards. So I know that the social media is kind of a newer field, and it's harder for smaller organizations because of staff, lower staff, right? Yeah, we talked about this. But I think that's a quick way to sort of see who's paying attention to you after a gala.
That's great.
I think that at most events, the work starts the year before, or maybe 2 or 3 years before, because you meet people at the event and you think, oh, maybe that's a good honoree, or oh, maybe this person can join the committee. So, you're starting that, and then after the event, you follow up with that. But another thing that happens before the event is that what we do is we segment our mailing list, and we have people write personal notes. So, we send one large group out through the mail house, and the rest come back to us, and we work with the honorees and their friends who want to write notes, and we print them, and, we send those out personally. So, and then myself and some of our other staff members also write their own personal notes. So, and some of our program people also do that.
So I heard 4 very tangible things that I think are highly actionable that any size organization can implement right away. Kickoff parties, and I want to hear a little bit more about that in a second. Social media follow-up. We're all using social media to get the word out about our organization anyway, so what a great way to leverage it. Meeting our new potential donors at an event, so getting that, you have the guest list in advance of the gala anyway, starring who those people are and making a note to go over and introduce yourselves. And then segmenting the mailing list of thank yous after. And I love the idea about engaging the honorees, not just the staff or the board, but engaging the honoree to write some of those thank yous. Can you talk a little bit more about the kickoff parties? I'm not sure, I've been to some, but I don't know that everyone here is familiar with those, and so what that might look like.
So I think one of the biggest shortfallings for a lot of nonprofits is they identify a person to honor, of course, because they have deep pockets or some opportunity to bring people to the table. And then they give them the award, and then everyone says thank you, and then they never talk to them again. And so it's a missed opportunity to develop a deeper relationship. So where does that start? Well, it's not just because they had really good scotch or bourbon at your party. It has to happen beforehand. So what we try to do is invite the honorees to tour our facility, to have an opportunity to meet people who are actually getting the services or programs that we are providing, to have a deeper conversation before the event. And that also includes having what we could call vice chairs. Anyone who's already kind of given a pledge or an opportunity to donate at a leadership level or a sponsorship level. And then you get all these folks in a room together. I mean, it could be a Zoom room now, but it's a chance to kind of have everybody in that sort of elite group have a chance to look at each other and meet each other, and then they can look out for each other at the party later. So it opens up doors for them as well. But for us, it really gives them a feeling of being more connected to the organization, and it gives us a chance to really explore what their interests are so that we can better cater our appeal to them in the future.
Go ahead.
I have a mad crush on kickoff parties.
Tell us more.
I do. I just think they're so much fun. I think it's a great opportunity to show a lighter side of the organization, because as a nonprofit, you're always asking for money. It's just the nature of the beast, and that can get a little heavy-handed over time. And I think a kickoff party is just a great way, but not everybody gets invited to those. So the way I look at a gala is it's like your diamond. That diamond has to sit in a ring of gold, and that ring of gold is your board and your directors. And then from there, the ring has to sit on a finger, and that finger is your donor base from the raffle ticket buyer to the $50,000 table. So to create kickoff parties or smaller events that might cater to that whole group and just keep nurturing them. And I know that can be hard for smaller organizations, so I'm hot also on in-kind donations. Because all restaurants, all liquor companies, everybody wants to be associated with a cause and a nonprofit. It's a perfect opportunity you can create entire events in-kind donations. So that's my hot crush, are the kickoffs. I think they're so valuable.
And so what's the ideal, I'm hearing this, and I've worked in development for big organizations, small organizations, and I'm thinking, oh man, kickoff party, that's just another event before the big event. And I see people also kind of shaking in their boots over that. What is the ideal size and the ideal attendees for the kickoff party?
I mean, I think it depends on the organization. Like for the galas that I run down in the city, and those are 1,000 to 1,200, the kickoff party is 100 people. It's for like the people who are buying the $100,000, $50,000. But then there's the more public events where it's really heavy on in-kind donations, where it's like an outside summer event, and it's free for attendance. So I know it takes a lot of planning, and I know it's really hard for smaller organizations, but you can create committees that will take on that duty and develop them for you.
And if you're lucky, maybe a chairperson might host it at their home or, do it for you. So you just have to be clear about your expectations of what you want from the person in that role. I think that's another place where we sometimes fall down is we ask people to be on a committee, but we don't tell them what that means.
That's right. Right. And be clear on what you're trying to get out of it, right?
You're having like a 1,000-person party, like 10%, like 100 person. You're having like 100-person party, 10, 15 people, kickoff would be something.
Yeah, something intimate like that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just
You're 80-20.
It's just your way of letting them know, like, we see you beyond your money, and people want to have fun, especially now post-COVID, right? So.
And they want to feel special.
Yes, and that definitely, it's a VIP experience. And how far in advance of the gala do you recommend having that?
I mean, ours usually is 6 weeks before.
6 weeks,
It really
okay.
just pumps up the energy.
Yeah, no, about the same. Because you want to give them enough time and tools to reach out for you. So by bringing them together, you're also going to have copies of the invitation they could take back with them. And, we usually call it a toolkit. So everybody who participates as a volunteer to help promote the event will get a toolkit. And that can include social media posts and verbiage that you've already pre-written for them that they just have to cut and paste.
Nice.
The actual invitation, links to the website, links, and then the whole social media thing. Don't be afraid to tag everybody in your entire world every time you do something, because even if they don't take the effort to say, yes, I like this, just by nature of you tagging them, it comes up on their feed. So you're just expanding those circles and connections.
They have questions.
Oh, you have a question? Go ahead.
So for a smaller organization like Friends of Caring where I work, to do a kickoff party might be a little, excessive, but you probably have all heard of VIP. VIP as part of your big gala. So those 10% of people who have bought a large sponsorship or are going to buy that trip to Italy as an auction item, you can invite them in prior to
A champagne reception.
champagne or do a vodka tasting. We've done that before, which works really well to make those donors feel extra special.
I think Rose's I think Rose's suggestion of asking a board member to possibly host one at their home is great for smaller organizations.
We've done that.
Yeah, that's a easy. Then you're not really there.
Right.
Yeah, we've done the VIP receptions also at our food and wine tasting. So people got a chance to meet the chefs, in a quieter situation. We've had.
I'm on that VIP list.
Everyone wants on the VIP list.
Yeah, we haven't actually had a kickoff party, but what we've done is, and this is after the event, is had a donor appreciation events. So we've done that, a little bit more as a result of COVID, but I think we will continue it in some fashion because it's really wonderful, because there's no money involved, there's no ask involved, but there is an ask to possibly bring a friend who was at the event, who made a larger donation and invite them. And so it's just another way of planning for the next year. I guess it almost is a kickoff in some ways for the following year also.
Yep.
So,
Keeps your donors engaged.
yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I just have a question, maybe it's a two-part question.
That's okay.
One is, I guess I'm just curious, do you really find that people want to come out multiple times to the same organization for, a kickoff party, a pre-event, a post-event? And then I guess the second part of the question is, do you engage your clients in any of these pre or post events? And I know that there's a yin and a yang to that, but I was just curious what your thinking is about that as well.
I think that we can't assume that everybody's going to come to every party we invite them to. So I think it's okay to do a pre and an event and a post. I think that, the pre one to me is more intimate. It's more, some prospects, some high-level donors. And I would definitely, if your organization is one that has sort of a tangible client or a client story, it's always nice for them to hear firsthand. For that, faces and connection are what is going to make the actual reason why they're going to give and why they're going to participate. So I think that, but then again, there's some places, like if you have a lot of youth involved, it's not always a great thing to have all these kids at a cocktail party, right? So, so you have to really think about where it fits best for you. But I think that anytime you can engage a donor and you're not with your hand out is also a really good opportunity to build a friendship. Because they often only hear from us when it's time for us to renew their annual gift or get a sponsorship. Sometimes they just want you to call and say, hey, how are the kids? What's going on? Did you, heard you were going to run in the marathon. So it's a different kind of approach, but it's so important because people give to people. There's 5,000 organizations plus in Westchester, and every one of us thinks ours is the absolute best. But it's not for everybody we're going after. It's like 200 givers in Westchester. The rest is smoke and mirrors, So.
Just let me add on the client speakers. We always have a client speaker at the Guidance Center Gala. We do mental health, substance use, early childhood, at-risk youth. And there's so many epic stories to tell, but we always pick an epic one because so many people that are there because somebody asked them to be there, they don't know the organization, and we work with the client beforehand to make a beautiful speech and to see the impact of where the money, I think that has to be in the mix.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I totally agree with both of you, and we always show a video, and the videos are so compelling. We work with corporate AV, and they are very professional at what they do, so they are, just working with us to make sure it's portrayed in the best possible light. And we also will invite families of people that are portrayed in the video to come. And I just think that one of our story that is just so lovely is that for years, one of the people in one of our programs, he served as a waiter at our food and wine tasting. I keep going back to that, but and Peter Herrero, actually from Sam's here, was the one who trained him. So, there's all these different connections that you can make with the people that, your vendors and the people in your programs, whoever your clients are, and it's really can be very creative and really bring the impact to your guests.
So a couple of you mentioned having a client at a gala speaking in person, and another one of you mentioned a video of a client speaking. Do you have a preference? And I'm just thinking about smaller shops, and they might not be able to hire a corporate AV or a professional videographer to do a video. Are there any tips or tricks to doing it in-house, or do you think in that case, if it's not affordable, doing it in person is best?
I think in-person is good if you have somebody that can really tell the story well, and you have to spend, we wouldn't have the time, I don't think, to do a video properly, but it's the same thing with a client speaker. You know, everyone's nervous when they're speaking at a gala, so you have to make them comfortable and go over their speech with them and make sure nothing inappropriate is in there. So it's work to get that done, too, to make sure they don't, and you have to hold their hand beforehand, and in our case, before they get and do their speech. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a video is nice, but it can't be like a 20-minute video. 3 to 5 minutes is really people's attention span. But I've found when money was an issue, and the fear of, a runaway program with the wrong client representative, you can actually make use of your room to tell the story. So you can have posters with client stories and pictures in the cocktail area. I mean, and a lot of people, sometimes it's a little awkward. They don't know who to talk to, where to start. So they all stand by the poster and they read it together, and now they have something to talk about. So it's a way to tell a story in sort of a subliminal way. And putting faces on your mission makes such a difference.
That's a great tip. I think that's also something actionable that small organizations can implement right away, right? We're all writing success stories to be included in impact reports or annual appeal letters anyway. So how can we make them, creatively visual and appealing and put them in frames around the room? So another good action item for smaller organizations. Thank you.
And then for smaller organizations, I think that we live in a great day and age because, so many people can just take a video on their camera. So if somebody has a son or a daughter who, loves to do video, make them volunteer. Don't ask them to volunteer.
They're voluntold, right?
Yes, voluntold. I like that.
There's actually a really great platform, if you haven't heard of it, called Memento. And it used to be called VidHug. And what it allows people to do is take the videos of themselves with their message, and then the platform actually creates it into a video for you, and it's free. So you might want to take a look at that, because you can have several people give you their messages and their testimonies, and it won't be high quality videography, but sometimes the grassroots of it all is more compelling. So it's something to look at.
Oh, that's a good tip. Thank you. All right, so going back, a couple of you mentioned expressing appreciation for our donors after an event. I'd love to hear more about that. So we obviously all send the thank you letters. We segment the thank you letters and write personal notes. What other kind of expressions of appreciation do you all do after events?
I do simple phone calls to people to get, to thank them and get their feedback on the event. They like to be asked that. And, is there anything specific you really liked or didn't like? And then thanking them, and then talking about whatever they want to talk about. Mm-hmm. So it's another touch point. You can't call everyone, obviously, but you can call your key people.
And so do you determine that based on the dollar amount that they've donated?
Kind of, or whoever I want to get sucked in.
And how soon after the gala do you make those calls?
I do the next day.
The next day?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's fresh in their mind. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they're on to the next gala.
Again, like I said, the very first question, nowadays, I think phone calls are primo. Absolutely, I agree with you. And then, of course, now social media, going out there and thanking them. I mean, maybe you didn't know everybody's name, or maybe you know the friend's name, or I don't know. There's ways to do it. One thing that we do at some of our events is we put up signage that says, if you attend and you're crossing this border, you understand and agree that your photo might be taken and used in our social media files. And you put that right at check-in, so that people are aware that their photo might be taken and put into the social media. So then that way you can take photos of your people and put them on your social media and thank them. People love seeing pictures of themselves.
They do.
They just love it. And so it's a free way, and it's along the lines of the direct phone outreach. I think it's a really...
And how do you determine which social media platforms you're going to use? Do you use all of them? Do you?
My top choice is Instagram. Everybody uses it. It's so easy. It's like an image, words, send. Facebook is next, but Facebook is not hot with the younger generation.
Okay.
Twitter is very complicated now, so, that's up to whoever is running it, I'd say that decision. TikTok is also becoming politically complicated, so I think for me, Instagram seems to be the cleanest, easiest, and safest bet.
I agree.
I think it also depends on your audience, because LinkedIn, I think, can be very helpful
LinkedIn, yeah,
for,
yeah, that's awesome.
connecting to businesses and corporations and that kind of thing. And you're right, like Facebook is still out there, but it's definitely a generational thing. So,
Yeah, LinkedIn's getting hot again.
yeah.
It seems to be in its third wave now, and I think it's becoming very valuable.
Yeah, we also, we send pictures through the mail, so it does have the cost of, the postage and getting the pictures reprinted, which is very minimal. So we will go through all of our photographs and we'll send pictures to them through the mail, put them in like a little black frame and send them off. And we've also used that for a save the date card for actually our golf tournament. When we have pictures of foursome, we send them out with a save the date note on that. So it saves the printing of a save the date, and then, it just reminds everybody of what's coming up in the fall. So, the pictures we've also used to make a keepsake book for the honorees. So, you can go on Shutterfly and make those
really good
books.
tip.
So,
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
also just recommend that whatever it is you do post-event, be thoughtful and mindful, because you don't want to be caught up in all of the white noise of too much happening. If it goes to everyone, if it obviously looks like a form letter, those kind of things aren't going to give you an impact that a personal note would do. So,
We also, on photos, send out a link to, we edit the photos, of course, but after they're edited, we send out a link of all the photos to all our donors, and they just seem to love them. If we have, it may take a day or two to edit, and they'll be like, well, where are the photos? And so I'm always surprised at how much everyone loves to see themselves.
They love it.
Question? Yes?
How important do you think it is to send an estimate of what the event has raised? I mean, I know it takes a day or so at least to find that total, but is it a good idea to say in your follow-up, with your help, we raised X amount of dollars at the event?
Great question.
Helpful?
I think it's absolutely helpful. We don't send the thank you letters out until we have a really good idea of what, hopefully within like 24-hour period, send the thank you note out with, what we think we made. Not to the T, but, we know what we've made over. So I think people like to know the impact of their gifts.
I agree.
I'm actually on the fence about that, because
too.
I feel like, for a smaller organization, that they raise $25,000 is, amazing and stupendous, and, everyone's so excited about it. But then your donor might be like, what, like all that just for $25,000? Like, what are they thinking about? So I think that the mind frame is every event is successful. We had such a great success. We're so glad you were there. Look at what we did. Look at who we talked to. Money is secondary. I mean, even though it's very important to you, this is also a really good cultivation step for the next conversation,
What about the timing of the thank yous? Like, right now, I'm doing silent auction, and as I get them, I was thinking that I should send them out so I don't forget to thank them. Should
Well-
I send out the thank you notes as I get the donations, or should I wait till we are done with the silent auction and thank them afterwards and send them in a bulk afterwards and say, like, we raised X amount?
So really, the purpose of your thank you note is twofold, right? So one is the tax thank you. So everyone needs to get some kind of acknowledgement of the donation so that they can use it for tax purposes. That can go out at any time. And I think that the thank yous that we're talking about is the more personal, we're so glad you connected with us. You were so much a part of making this a success. Anytime you can get that handwritten, that's really great. Sometimes what we would do is, for committees, we would give them branded cards, and as donations came in, of course, the tax ID number letter goes out, but then the board chair might write a note to, ABC Corp and say, I just found out that you gave us $5,000, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you joining me in a leadership position. So there's a connect, a personal connect. So, yeah, so I think there's really there's more than one thank you that you need to send.
I want to go back to your question about how announcing the amount or not. So I have a client who is about to do a big gala, and in the room they're going to do the in-ask. And there's a debate whether or not to have the thermometer up on the board showing. They also were part of this big grant that happened, and there was a question like, should we publicly thank them? This is huge. The concern is, well, why are we giving money if they just got all this money? So I think that's the question to lay out. Now, if in the beginning you said our goal is to raise 100,000 and you did that, I think that's awesome. Like, we did it, woohoo, but I think you have to dig deep and maybe talk around with the other people in your organization. Or if you have a big donor that you really trust who's been there with you for 20 years, maybe consult with them if you and the ED are on board with that, because it can be very helpful, but it's delicate because money is freaky, right? People get freaked out by it, so.
Yep, question, Amir?
Thank you. Thank you for what you do, every one of you. There was a cultivation process for donors. You always talk about the 80-20, but there is a magnificent opportunity for the 80%, someone to rise to the 20% level. What does each one of the organizations have in terms of the cultivation process that you grew your donors to advance to the level that you want them to be that top 5-10%?
One of the things that I always encourage every organization to start considering is developing a youth committee. Like, bring in 20-somethings into your organization now. They come to your galas. They bring people onto the youth board or committee and start. I think that's a really key part of cultivating longer-term donors in the long run now, because the big donor group that's happening right now, they are getting older and their children will start inheriting the money. Are they going to still donate to you? So you have to start building your younger donor now. And I think the best thing an organization can do is create a youth committee that is going to create that board. They help, they're responsible for bringing in, let's say your gala is 300 people, they're responsible for bringing in 10 ticket buyers. And then I think that's a great cultivation opportunity for an organization of any size. So I'm very passionate about that, as you can.
I also think one thing, sorry.
No, you want to go? Go ahead.
One thing that's important in moving donors up the money ladder is to involve them in something. Involve them in a committee, involve them in an opinion survey, and just keep getting them more and more involved, because if they fall in love with your organization and they have capacity, they're going to donate more. If they come to a gala once a year and that's the end of it, they're not. They'll do the same, sponsorship every year. So I think that is, you have to have committees, you have to have, we've talked about small events, to get them involved and have them do something. I think that's important.
Big time.
Yeah, and as Rose said before, people give to people. So I think the biggest thing that I've experienced is just developing those relationships and just, keep on, whether it's a smaller donor or a medium or a larger donor, just, keep on asking them about their kids and keep on, wishing them a happy new year. And during COVID, it was just making sure their families were well and having a small group at your organization to maybe, learn something new or have a preview of a video or, anything that you can do almost like you would do with, just a friend or a family member, checking in on them. And, I get pictures now on the weekends, at least twice a month from a donor who, his daughter received services from us and they never were a larger donor and now they are. And it's just slowly developed throughout the years. So I think, going and making personal visits and having a cup of coffee or, and like I said, at any size donor, because you never know what, what somebody has.
Yeah, and I'd add on that just two things. One is that no one ever gives the first time you ask, or that they meet you. So it's really a process in building that relationship. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, we're going to invite them to the gala, and they're going to come, and they're going to give us $10,000. And it doesn't work that easy. I mean, it's a different world now. Everything is so connected to, their own personal beliefs and choices and what they find important. And the only way to find those things out is to develop that relationship. And there are tools that you can use. Sometimes before an event, it makes sense if you have access to something like Wealth Engine or it's platforms that can kind of look at your list and see who has potential to give better money. That being said, you never know where the money's going to come from. When I worked at the United Negro College Fund, I was doing major gifts, and I just started having conversations with people who were, smaller gift givers, $1,000, $2,000, and asking them, what they thought was happening and where they thought we should be putting our impact and what they found important. And as a result of one of those conversations, one of those nice ladies who, didn't look like she had a lot of money came through with a $250,000 donation. So you never know where it's going to come from. You just have to keep talking.
So I'm hearing from the panelists that the cultivation process is multi-pronged, right? It's investing in engagement with each of your donors. It's engaging them with opinion surveys, committees, gatherings, checking in, regular communications, and also developing that youth or junior advisory board. Great action items. All right, we've got a question over here.
Yeah, I just wanted to really mention the cost of events. I've been working in an organization that we did shortly after the event. This is wonderful, we made 500,000 or whatever. But in fact, it was pretty misleading because we didn't say how much the costs were. So this is not really what we got from the event. We got much less.
I agree with you in a lot of things because events are very resource heavy, right? They cost a lot of money, they take a lot of time. But when you look at an event, it shouldn't be only that this is the only big, great fundraiser we're ever going to do. You're looking at what else can I do with this event to get to the next level. That's, I think, what we were kind of coming together to talk about. So the event and the party and all that stuff and energy you put into it takes a lot out of your organization. So if all you're expecting out of it is the dollar amount at the end of the day, you haven't done enough. It's really like, how are you going to launch off of that event? Have you put out cards looking for volunteers? Have you done a call to action that went beyond money, that went to, looking for in-kind opportunities? There's a audience that is stuck in a room with you for 3 hours, and you have a chance to really mold their opinion of you and invite them to do lots of different things. So if you don't, it's a lost opportunity.
Kevin.
I think to my friend over here, the question is simply to say in your letter, we're proud to say we netted 75,000 or whatever it is. Everybody in the room understands that the meal was not free, that everything else. If you just use the word netted, I would like to say we
More
netted
than.
more than,
Yeah.
so that you're not saying anything specific. But I think you can get around that easily. Nobody's will be surprised.
Are we going to talk about sponsorships?
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
so just to go back to the concept of how much an event costs, one of the things that I like to tell my clients is when they're planning their galas, you can create special sponsorship opportunities that are outside of a table, and then you get printed up in the journal. Like, you could say, will you sponsor dessert? And that's $5,000. And then they get to be listed as the dessert sponsor. Or will they sponsor cocktail hour? Or will they sponsor the florist? So, maybe you have a donor who will, in addition to buying a ticket, sponsor something that's $3,500, dollars, and they get to get credited for that. So that means since those parts of your gala are covered by a special sponsorship, you're actually netting more money. right? Because they're still buying the table, but they're also paying for this cute, everybody loves sponsoring cocktail and dessert. People are super into that. So that's another way that you can sort of bring more money in, so you're actually netting more money at the end.
I also, I think that, I work for a larger organization, but I think even for a smaller organization, that if you're doing when you're doing your budgeting for the year, and you're putting your operating budget together, you're putting in your expenses for, your staff and, the putting the lights on and running your event, and it's part of your operating budget. So, if you did make $250,000 at the event, I think that you made $250,000 at the event. That's the way that we approach it. We've had many conversations about this too. This isn't a topic that's not, brought up, but since it is part of our operating budget, that's the way that we view it. So.
Chris? So how to position an event so it doesn't just appeal to your community that tends to follow your organization, but appeals to a wider. A great invitation, Jill, thank you. Any thoughts, panelists?
I would just like to have a board like the Met.
Yes, exactly. Engaging your board, right? That's one step.
Well, if you're lucky enough to get a topic like the tasting that they do up north, or, that transcends the mission, that's awesome. But most of us rely on the core group of, 1/3 or 2/3 of people that come to every gala because they love us. And then the rest is kind of filled in by those honorees. And so it's really critical to find a person who is willing to open up their Rolodex, to say an old word, and to invite the friends that they have to learn your story. And they're getting harder and harder to find. So it's important to open up your definition of what makes an honoree, too. It's not just somebody who gives you money, but maybe it's somebody who opened doors, somebody who facilitated a project. Maybe it's a volunteer. But I think that it's through those affiliations is where you start opening up that circle and bringing more people to the table. We've been trying to get people reconnected by getting high marquee level entertainers, but they cost a lot of money. Right. Like you're talking like $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to get a really great name recognized performer. And we don't have that. And if we had it, I'm not spending it on a person. I want it to go to my programs. Right. So, it's a little tougher to transcend. So it's more about creating those friends.
Yeah, and if you're having a very, if you're a very targeted event, like, again, a food and wine tasting or a golf tournament, you can, if you work with the right social media sites, foodies and, things like all these different places that people who like to eat go or like to play golf, or, it's a good way to just try to advertise it. But we're always trying to get new people to come in whichever way we can.
This has been something I've been thinking a lot about lately. The last few weeks I've been pondering this. I think big public events like that, to bring in a big draw, you're going to have to, their footprint needs to be changed a little bit. Okay, back to the youth. What's going to draw younger people in and make you aware a party? So something with dancing, something with fashion, that's going to take a few years to plan, though. Maybe it needs to be a collaboration between a few different organizations. But that's a way to start getting your name out there. But the golf thing is very specific attendance, the food is very specific, but what can you do more general? I mean, my brain goes carnival, but that's ridiculous. People want to dance though, and they want to get out of their mom jeans, you know, and they want to have fun. And yeah, so creating, but that's a public event, that's a big undertaking.
Just a quick follow-up to that. There was one organization, it was the backdrop, because it was really Instagram influencers, and they just wanted a picture of something behind them that looked kind of cool. So that was sort of really a reason why they came, was that it was such a great location. They wanted a picture for their Instagram feed.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
Yeah, having influencers invited to your event is always, but you want to research that influencer and make sure that they're in line with your message. And I don't mean necessarily politically, but just, you know, some people lean more heavy into youth, some people lean heavy into food, religion, makeup, fashion. So having an influencer there is valuable. Again, it's finding how do you connect to that younger group that are eventually going to be your future donors. So,
Any other questions? Jill?
I was thinking about something this morning that I don't know if it would be useful, and you all can weigh in on this, which I don't think I've seen, which is at a midway point, let's say 6 months after an event, 6 months before the next event, to send out the equivalent of like an infographic that says, last year and you could determine what's the best information. Last year we raised X amount of money, we had this many people, we had this success. More importantly, this is how many individuals we helped, this is what we did for them. And then to include in that a save the date for next year. So it's another touch point that's not asking for money, but either reminds them the great time they had, or to the people that didn't come, hopefully will give them a little bit of FOMO. And it just, you know, do it in like in a graphically appealing way. But I thought I haven't seen that, I haven't done it, so I don't know if that would be useful.
I think some people do it like in their newsletters,
Right, I was gonna say, that's what we do.
but I think it's great, and I don't know if anyone else is feeling the pinch of postage, the way, and so we seem to try and feel a little bit more precious about how we are mailing things, and
I was thinking email.
yeah, that's what, like email is probably the best way to go, but then again, you run the risk of being in that whole white mail of the email too, so how does it stand out? So I don't know the answer, except maybe to find, one thing that we used to do with chairmen from old school, and I'm finding that everything old is new again, like all the things we used to do like 20, 30 years ago are starting to become like popular again, which I love because it was much more interpersonal. But what we used to do is make sure that the solicitation did not come from the organization. It was in an envelope of the chairperson. Or it was in under the email of another person. It was something we knew would get opened, and it wouldn't get lost. So perhaps something like you're suggesting, Jill, would be great to give to volunteers and board members and whatnot as a tool to open up new doors, because they'll get opened, those emails.
I love that idea. I'm going to do that at my organization this week. That's a great one. I think also adding pictures from last year's event, because that creates some FOMO too.
The buzz, yeah.
Question?
Yeah, so talking about bringing the new donors in, entry points for that. I know silent auction, raffle, other auctions and whatnot, but any suggestions of how to bring those new guests to like actually get to your mailing list and find out maybe who has capacity?
Well, we get new guests coming in when a board member or something brings in his friends, like buys a table and then says, oh, come, you know, and they don't have to pay any money, but then we get them on the other things. So that is an effective door for us to get new donors.
You get, from the table sponsors, get the information of their guests.
Right.
Okay.
And then get that table sponsor to help you bring them in.
We also do list generators where we'll ask each board member to give us 10 new names of people that should be invited. So if you have 20 people on your board, that's 200 new people.
I like to hunt down people on LinkedIn. I'll go and see who's, I'll go and see who's following United Way of New York City or UNCF or any of the other organizations, and then if I find that the interest is strong enough or they fit a certain desired parameter of what the focus is, I'll send them a direct message and just be like, hey, I just want to make you aware that we're doing this. Would you like to have a conversation? So I find LinkedIn's really valuable with that.
I do that too, for our organization.
I would say that we actually got some new donors this year or last year through Giving Tuesday. We changed the way that we did our Giving Tuesday appeal, and I guess it was a little bit more well accepted out there. So we got some new donors. We have a couple of other appeals that we also get some new people through, and we're trying to work very hard at making sure that we get the names and addresses and emails and cell phones of people. So anybody that comes to the event, or anything that we do, not just an event, but if it's a forum or a, something for parents, or for the staff, anything, we just really are working really hard to try to, keep on top of our database, and keep it current.
Question?
Yeah, we're talking a lot about new donors and first-time people. I mean, I think one of the things is really, the balance. You get a new person attending your event. Are they then automatically going to get your solicitation for your annual appeal? And then are they going to get, an email that says donate now? And, you don't want to saturate people and over-ask. So I just wanted to get some, thoughts about that balance. I mean, I think we've really gotten into the habit of, every email that goes out to donors does not have a donate button on it anymore. So that you can say, happy holidays, happy new year, and not say donate now. But again, that balance, especially for new donors, you just don't want to keep bombarding them.
I think Kevin wants to comment on that.
Also to the gentleman that asked about, for first-time donors, whether they bought a raffle ticket or whether they were a guest of a board member, the best investment for 1 hour in the week following the event would be phone calls. The best, they will be blown out of their mind if you call them to thank them for buying a $30 raffle. And that will stay with them when they get the annual appeal. They may not give, but they're not going to be badly.
That's right.
An hour of phone calls pays off in any situation we've talked about in the last hour.
Amen. Thanks, Kevin.
Hi, so I'm Molly, I work for an organization called Gelanio. We have had more success with virtual events, virtual galas in the past 3 years. This year, we're going to do a hybrid, like exponentially more successful financially, and also in terms of engagement, because we're doing it using a peer-to-peer committee. So they're going out and soliciting, and there's all different levels of sponsorship and donation, so it's very inclusive. This year, we're going to do a VIP watch party. So I just wanted to know if the panel could comment on some of the things you talked about in terms of engagement and cultivation, but in relation to a virtual or hybrid type of event.
Well, we did virtual events all during the pandemic, and people love them because we made them very fun and we made them very client-heavy, with clients from all different programs talking about the impact, and not just, a talking head talking about how great we are. It came from, so that they were received very well, but now we're switching back to in person because people seem to want to be out. So.
Yeah, but not to lose some of that creativity. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the things that work for both events, whether it's virtual or in person, is the engagement. How did you make it more interesting for them? Was there something to do there besides sit and eat a dry chicken? You want to make sure that there's some other kind of activity that makes them remember it fondly and want to be a part of it. Like you were saying, peer-to-peer, that whole campaign strategy works really well anywhere because essentially it's people asking people, right? So you want to get and apply them for either one. to get real success out of it.
During your virtual events, did you send packages out before the event to people and like, okay, it's going to be a movie thing, here's popcorn? You did all
virtually, although we did make a lot of phone calls as well, especially to those kind of high-touch donors, no matter what level they were at, if we wanted to make sure that they are, but yes.
So if you're going to do a hybrid, I would continue practicing that. One of the formats that we did for online and hybrid is that during certain segments of the program that are boring to watch when you're doing it virtually, we set up like news people, like Saturday Night Live news, right? And so it would turn to them, and they would be talking about the event and the gala and who's there and what they said. And then the people were able to write in questions and say, you know, we're able to correspond, like, oh, John just wrote in a question, John, and they'd talk to him. So it was like you saw it happening, the gala was happening in the background, but people were eating dinner. And so we created this for them to have while that was happening. Yeah, yeah.
Or like the gamify it, like ask questions and have them answer and give them the results, you know, that kind of thing. VCAS does some of that stuff. Yeah.
That's great. All right, I think we have time for one last question. Natasha.
So Ian touched earlier on feedback after events. So I want to know from anyone or everyone on the panel how they approach getting feedback from events, whether it's just a phone call, they send out a donor survey, and then second part of that, engaging people in that community.
Well, most people are going to tell you if they didn't have a good time. I can tell you that. So, I mean, don't worry. If they're not happy, you'll know right away. But we've done like MailChimp surveys for that purpose. We've also done, you know, postmortems with the committee. What did you like? What didn't you like? What could we do better? And then that also becomes sort of the planning session for the next one. So it's also a good chance to invite new people to that particular breakdown. So.
And I had mentioned phone calls before. The phone calls, you can ask about, you know, what they thought about the event, and then you can continue talking, which is nice. So.
Ditto, yeah. The phone calls and the post-mortem meetings is like where you get the best information, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. We always have a post-mortem meeting about the event. And then, again, you know, at the event, we try to keep our eyes open for anybody who might want to join the committee, you know, or any friends of any of the honoree who might want to join the committee. So we're always doing that.
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
I'm going to add one more thing in, and I hate to keep harping on social media, but you can go the day after your event and look at the how many hits you got, and judge by then what the response was. Was it big, or was it positive, right, by people's responses, like, this was awesome, or like, the chicken was dry, so.
I hope people don't post that.
Can I make a closing
Of course, absolutely.
I just want to note, there's a lot of people in the room that are from smaller organizations, and to keep in mind that interns, get interns in, you know, they will save your lives, and volunteers, of course. But interns, kids in college that want to get some work experience, and you can shape your internship so they're not bored to death, it is really helpful.
Yes, and I think that also these interns and these volunteers can let you have some time at the event to just not be in a conversation and then say, oh, I got to run, because you're being pulled in a million different directions.
I'm talking about in office before, though.
Before and after,
You're coming
right?
into your
Before and
office,
Yeah.
you know, twice a
Oh,
week.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
in Westchester, we have a wealth of resources for interns. If you haven't engaged with them, many of the high schools have internship programs. I've personally used interns from several local high schools, as well as Mercy College, the College of Westchester. They all have mandatory internship programs for many of their programs, so reach out to those resources. Okay, so thank you all. This has been a wonderful, wonderful presentation. Thank you all for your questions. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. Really
Thank you.
appreciate my pen. We're sharing a pen up here because our pen died. Thank you all for sharing your expertise and your enthusiasm with all of us today. Any parting words before I know Hillary would like to wrap up?
Can I make a plug?
Of course.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Some of you may know that me and a bunch of other wonderful organizations are putting together something called the Westchester Women's Summit. It's on March 10th. It's at Sonesta. We just found out that Letitia James is going to be one of our featured speakers amongst April Ryan, who's a CNN News correspondent with the White House, and Dee Del Bello, Kimberly Davis, who is with the NHL, and a woman named Fiona Broder, who is the president of the Americas, which is mind-boggling to me. But we have over 20 different workshops and speakers, and I offer you an opportunity as a nonprofit to showcase. We're going to have something called the Discovery Village. So you get a free table for the whole day to show off your stuff and share your information. And in exchange, you just have to post on your social media that you're involved. So if you want to be a part of that, just come and pick up a flyer. Forgive me, I've made 2 very major spelling errors in it, and I'm going to be correcting it, but I'm owning that, and I just want you to know it's happening. So,
Thanks, Rose.
oh, and Girls Inc. is the spotlight. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'd also like to thank Nikki for
Yeah.
Speaking of which, following what we just talked about, if you like to come to an event where you will leave in time to be at your desk by 9:45 on March 22nd, if you want to leave an event feeling really great about how many people are doing good work in their community and just be uplifted, please make plans to attend our Philanthropy Awards breakfast. We would love to have you there. I'm not going to try to list the honorees off the top of my head because I know that I will leave someone out, but there's a sign over there with their names on it. Kevin or Monica, do you want to add anything? There are co-chairs of the Philanthropy Awards
Please join us,
breakfast.
it's the best event in town.
No offense to any of you all, of course.
That's great.
Thank you very much for being here today. We will see you in March at the Philanthropy Awards breakfast and back again here in April for our next presentation. Thank you. Don't go anywhere, please.
Before you get attacked by the